Hi, Jen.
Hi, Monica. Hi, attendees for the webinar. Thanks for joining us at 2 o'clock today. We're going to give everybody just a few minutes to jump on the call, and then we'll go ahead and get started. We've got about 15 on here. Hey, Irv.
All right, can everybody hear me? All right, good evening, good afternoon. It is 2 p.m., so we're definitely going to get started. My name is Irvin Humphrey, the Director of Sports Training and Competition for Special Olympics Arkansas, and we're here with Jennifer Edwards. I got that right. The Director of Field Services, Initiatives, and Volunteers for Special Olympics Arkansas. And definitely want to thank you all for being on the call today. This is the softball coaches training. So after this course, you will be certified to coach softball within Special Olympics Arkansas, or Special Olympics in general, I should say. During the training, if there's any questions that you may have, please make sure you put them into the chat or the Q&A box at the bottom. Due to the fact that it is an online training and it is 1 hour, we are definitely looking for any questions that you may have. So please ask away. Today, we have Monica McKinney from Area 4, and she will be leading us in the softball coaches training today. But again, for those who are just joining, if you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to ask. Also, just a little disclaimer, I'm pretty sure everyone is familiar, but with coronavirus and everything that is going on, we are trying to figure out how we will schedule upcoming activities and events. So we will have that information to everyone the next few, I'll say, month or so. In the next month or so. So everything will look a little different as far as competition goes. How it will look, we're not sure at the moment, but we will let everyone know. But of course, for these certifications, you are certified for 3 years, and we will definitely be back in competition before that. So you'll be able to utilize the certification. So without further ado, I will turn the floor over to Monica McKinney.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everybody's doing well, staying away from all the yuck that's going on in the world today. Today we're going to talk about the softball rules. And I started playing softball when I was about 6 years old, and I've umpired in both youth softball and high school softball. So I've had a little bit of experience with softball, and I really enjoy it, and I hope you guys will get something out of this training today. We can go ahead and start the slides, guys. Let's talk about the basics first. Our sports season for softball is May through November. The state events are the Unified Sports Fall Games, and that is for unified teams only. And then summer games, we have traditional only. So that splits it up into two different areas. It's kind of important that we do that because during the unified tournament alone, I know that there's 25 to 30 teams, sometimes even more than that. So there's a lot of people that participate in that. And that's a great thing, though, because it gives the athletes and the partners an opportunity to interact and have a really good time and just enjoy themselves playing the great game of softball. The events that we offer are team competition slow pitch, unified team competition slow pitch, And we also do individual skills contests. Individual skills are typically done at the area level. This gives the coaches a great opportunity to be able to do skills and find out what level their players are at, be able to find out what positions they're good on. And we're going to talk about the individual skills contest here a little bit later. I think probably some people have not heard a whole lot about that, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Uniform guidelines and equipment. Uniform consists of a jersey, shorts, stockings, sports shoes. All team members must have identical uniforms in color and design. Caps, visors, and headbands are optional for players, but can be mixed. If more than one type is worn, they must be all the same color. So if you've got girls that want to wear visors and guys that want to wear caps, just make sure they're the same color. I don't think we're going to get real specific about that, but just make sure that they're all kind of the same color and definitely the same general appeal to everyone. Athletic bottoms should be worn, obviously. It can be either shorts or baseball type pants. There are no jeans allowed, and that's with any Special Olympics sport. We are a pure sport organization, and we want to make the athletes feel respected as athletes because that's what they are. So please, share that with your athletes. Make sure that they're not wearing jeans and make sure that they're outfitted properly. Wear rubber-soled athletic shoes or rubber cleats, but you are not allowed to wear metal spikes. Metal spikes are very dangerous. Bandanas, do-rags, jewelry, and denim may not be worn during games or practice. Headwear for religious or medical reasons are acceptable, but must be brought to the attentions of the games director prior to competition. Ball regulations, I'm not going to go through the centimeters. We'll talk about it in inches because we don't do centimeters here in the United States very much. It's 12-inch ball, and that should be the circumference of the ball, no less than 11 7/8, no more than 12 1/8. Should weigh about 6 1/4 ounces to 7 ounces, and it needs to be a red stitch ball with a 300 compression and a core of 0.52 and under. When you go to purchase softballs, you can ask the people at the store and they should be able to tell you that. Batting helmets are required for all batters and base runners. This is hugely important because we're all about safety and we want to make sure everybody's safe and we want to make sure that everybody has their head protected and covered. So make sure that all your batters and all your base runners wear a helmet, and that includes unified as well as traditional softball. The catcher must wear a face mask and catcher's type helmet. Chest protectors and throat guards are not required but recommended. Make sure that they definitely have that helmet and that face mask on. The ball can kind of take some bounces and make it kind of crazy. So we want to make sure that, they've got their face and their head protected when they're back behind the plate. The bats need to be of one-piece construction. If they're multi-piece, they must be permanently assembled or a two-piece interchangeable construction. If the bat is designed with interchangeable components, it must meet the following criteria. Can't be more than 34 inches long and cannot exceed 38 ounces in weight. Needs to be made of hardwood, metal, bamboo, plastic, graphite, carbon, magnesium, fiberglass, ceramic, or any other composite material approved by the ISF equipment standards or the NGB standards. On this next slide, you're going to see some insignias that you'll often see on bats. Look for those when you go to buy bats. It's really important that those are on there because that way the referees and the umpires and everybody, the games director, they all know that the bats are legal. Oftentimes those get worn off if the bat's been used quite a bit, but typically there's something on there that people can see and they'll know that it's a certified bat. Team size. Team rosters shall contain a minimum of 11 players and a maximum of 15. You may register 3 athletes as alternates. A team may start a game with 10 players, and if an injury or ejection occurs, may finish with 9 players. Games may not begin with 9 players. In this case, a forfeit will be declared. So make sure when you show up at the field, you've got all 10 of your players there and ready to go. Okay, now we're going to talk about some more general rules. A game will last 7 innings. Time limit is 1 hour and 5 minutes, and no inning will start after that time. If a game will be deemed complete if a team has 15 lead after 4 innings or 12 runs after 5 innings. And in the case of inclement weather, 2 complete innings shall be considered a complete game. So if it starts raining or anything like that, if the teams have played 2 complete innings, whoever's ahead at that point, that'll be considered the winner of the game. Foul ball on your third strike is an out. So if you hit 2 fouls and you hit that third one, you're going to go ahead and be out. The batting order cannot change except for the following situations. The batter is out when playing shorthanded and has dropped player's position in the batting order. If an athlete is ejected, it will be considered an out when his or her time to bat arrives, only if there are no substitutions available in this case. And a new athlete may be added to the bottom of the batting order at any time. So let's say that, 10 of your players get there and you're going to go ahead and bat 11. You can go ahead and add that person at the very bottom. Sliding is allowed, but it is not recommended. Sliding is very dangerous, and you can definitely break ankles and tear up knees, and so we don't recommend it unless you just absolutely feel like you have to. No assisted device is allowed during team play. What we're talking about there is we don't use tees or pitching machines during unified or traditional competition. If they have to have a walker or a wheelchair to be able to play, that's allowed. But no pitching machines and no tees are going to be used when we play. There will be no more than 2 coaches for each team to give words or signals of assistance and direction to the members of their team while at bat. One should be stationed near first base and the other near third base in the coaches' boxes that are marked. If an athlete needs additional assistance, the umpire will let the coach know, and then the coach can go up, and depending on the division, that can happen sometimes. Coach can go up and help the player and everything else. The other thing that's important to remember if you're one of those base coaches is don't touch your players when they're coming around the base. If you've got a player that's coming around first base and you think they're going to go and you don't want them to, don't grab a hold of them and say, no, wait, stop. Because some umpires will consider that interference, and technically it is, and that base runner could be called out. If a play is made at first base on any batted ball and the batter runner touches only the fair portion, and if the defense appeals prior to the batter runner returning to first base, the batter runner is out. After the batter runner passes first base, they may return to either portion of the double base and may stand on either portion of the beginning of the subsequent plays. When you've got the 2-base system, teach your players to run to that orange bag. That's all. That's still in fair territory when they get there, but that also teaches them to go ahead and run toward the dugouts, and it keeps them from possibly wanting to go ahead and just advance without knowing whether they should or not. It'll also cut down on injuries and getting in the way of the ball coming to first base. On a tiebreaker rule, starting with the top of the 8th inning, or the first inning after the time limit, and each half inning thereafter, the offensive team shall begin its turn at bat with the player who is scheduled to bat last in the respective half inning being placed on second base. It's basically the international rule. So whoever was last up will go to second base. They will start at second base, and that will continue on until the game is decided. The player who is running can be substituted in accordance with the substitution rules. I don't have those rules right here in front of me, but you can look up in the rules for softball. It's really very, very well written, very well thought out, very easy to understand. So if you have questions about that, just look it up on those. But most people that have played softball or been around softball very much, they understand the international rule. Pitching regulations. The pitching plate will be set at a minimum of 40 feet and a maximum of 50 feet from the home plate. For unified competition, the plate may be moved to 55 feet, and that's determined by the game's organizing committee. The pitch starts when the pitcher makes any motion that is part of his or her windup after the required stop. The pitcher must deliver the ball toward home plate on the first forward swing of the pitching arm past the hip with an underhanded motion. The pivot foot must remain in contact with the pitcher's plate until the pitched ball leaves the hand. The ball must be delivered with a perceptible arc of at least 6 foot and not more than 10 foot from the ground. So you need a little bit of arc on the ball when it leaves the hands and as it comes into the plate. And that totally is up to the umpire's judgment. If they think that you're not getting enough arc on it, they're going to tell you. If they think you're getting a little too much, they're going to tell you. But people that have pitched much probably are pretty used to those particular distances and heights. We have 10 players on the field at a time. You notice it says pitcher F1, catcher F2, first baseman F3. That's really important when you're filling out your lineup sheets and you're turning it in. Be sure and use those numbers, and then that way whoever's keeping score is going to know exactly where those people are playing. Most of the time in the scorebooks, you don't have enough room to write left field and left center field and everything else. So it's real important to be able to remember these particular codes. Batting. The batting order must show the first and last name, uniform, and the position like we were just talking about on the lineup card. It must be delivered before the game by the manager or captain to the scorekeeper at the field. A lot of times people will say, oh, I'm supposed to take it to the umpire. The umpire's not going to want it. You're going to want to take it to the scorekeeper because that's the person that's ultimately going to need it anyway. In unified, the lineup card shall designate A for athlete and P for partner next to that player's information. The batter must have both feet completely within the batter's box prior to the start of the pitch. They may touch the lines, but no part of their foot may be outside the lines prior to the pitch. Oftentimes when we're playing on dirt fields, those batter's boxes get, kicked and dirt goes everywhere and you don't always know where they're at. If you're real confused about it, ask the umpire because they can usually get pretty close to where it's supposed to be. We don't remark the fields. I know when we played in unified in the fall last year, we played on synthetic fields, and that was really nice because you didn't have to worry about the batter's boxes. A ball is called by the umpire for each legally pitched ball that does not enter the strike zone, touches the ground before reaching home plate, touches home plate, and at which the batter does not swing. And balls and strikes are totally up to the umpire, and it does you absolutely no good to argue those points because that's totally a judgment call. So respect our umpires when they're doing that. That's not an easy job to do, so be sure and respect those people when they're out there doing it and helping us out. Fielding. The infield fly rule will be in effect when there are less than 2 outs and there are runners on first and second base or the bases are loaded. The umpire will announce infield fly when one of the above conditions exists and a batter hits a pop fly in the infield. Basically, an infield fly is when a batter hits a fly ball in the infield and someone can settle under it to catch it. That's what's considered an infield fly. But again, that's up to the umpire and it's a judgment call. Unified softball rules. If anybody has any questions, be sure and put them in the Q&A or put them in the chat.
Monica, I'm going to stop you right there. There was one question. Mark asked, do partners and athletes need to wear helmets?
Irvin, I'm going to let you address that.
Yes, Mark. For the safety of everyone that's participating, I would definitely say partners and athletes must wear helmets. And that's when batting or running bases.
Unified softball. The roster shall contain a proportionate number of athletes and partners. During the competition, the lineup shall never exceed 5 traditional athletes and 5 partners at any time. The batting order shall alternate athletes and partners. So if your first person up to bat is an athlete, then your next person's a partner and so on and so forth. And same way if you flip that around. Position requirements are as follows: 2 athletes and 2 partners in the infield and in the outfield, and you've got either a partner or an athlete pitching and a partner or an athlete catching. So you're making sure that you've got your 5 partners, 5 athletes, but you want to make sure that you alternate those positions so that they're playing, you've got the same number of athletes and partners in the infield and outfield, plus your pitcher and your catcher are both, vice versa. The home run rule, a limit of over the fence home runs will be used in all unified divisions. The following limitations are per team, per game, and that is 2. For any in excess, the ball is dead and the batter's out and the runners cannot advance. So if you get some guys that are big home run hitters, be sure and have them kind of throttle that down a little bit or bat the other way or different things. I've seen different things happen. Oftentimes, if a guy's left-handed and he can hit it over the fence, he'll bat right-handed if they've already got to their maximum on their home runs. Individual skills contest. We talked about this a little bit a while ago. I'm going to talk about it some more now because I think it's a really good area, a really good place that a lot of areas could use to evaluate their athletes, plus to also introduce the game to the athletes and introduce the basic skills that are required to play softball. So event 1 is base running.
Monica, so if the
Yep.
pitcher is a partner and the catcher needs to be an athlete, or they can both be athlete or both be partners?
No, 1 and 1. If the pitcher is a partner, then the catcher has to be an athlete. If the pitcher is an athlete, then the catcher has to be a partner.
Can both be athletes?
No, because your infield won't have the same number of athletes and partners in it.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the first event in the individual skills competition is base running. And this is to measure the athlete's ability to run bases. You set the bases up 65 meters apart. 65 feet apart, just like a baseball diamond or a softball diamond or whatever. And you make sure that they are, that they're running the right way. You start them at home plate, have them run around the bases as fast as can, and they touch each base en route. The time elapsed in seconds is subtracted from 300 to determine the points scored. The second event is throwing, and this is to measure the athlete's ability in throwing for distance and accuracy. The player being tested stands behind the restraining line, back far enough to take 1 or 2 more steps in preparation for throwing. The player has 2 trials to throw the softball as far and as straight as possible down a throwing line without stepping over the restraining line. So it's very similar to the softball throw that we do in athletics, but you want to make sure that you've got that line because you're looking for accuracy as well as distance, not just how far they can go. Fielding, to measure the athlete's ability to field the ball. The athlete will stand between and behind the 2 cones. The official must throw the ball on the ground to the athlete between the cones. To throw to the athlete, the throw to the athlete must hit the ground before the chalk mark. The athlete may move aggressively toward the ball. Each athlete gets 5 fielding attempts per trial, and each athlete receives 2 trials. And you can notice down at the bottom of the slides that, all this stuff is marked and everything. And they go into a lot more detail in the rules about this as well.
I can see, okay, here's another question. I can see my team having more athletes than partners. Would we not be able to play if we don't have enough partners? I believe I have 6 athletes and 4 partners.
I think that you can have more athletes than you can partners. I know that ultimately and optimally it's, 5 and 5, but I don't think that that's going to cause you from not playing. Is that correct, Irvin?
Yeah, that is correct. In most cases, as long as there's not more partners than there are athletes, it should be perfectly fine in pretty much any situation. And most of the cases, if there was an issue, we would talk to the coaches and make sure they were aware, like, hey, you might not have as many partners, but there's really little that we can do based off of that if that's the team that you bring. But if there are more athletes than partners, that shouldn't be an issue at all.
Thanks, sir. Hitting is to measure the athlete's ability to hit for distance when hitting off of a tee. They'll stand in a regulation size batter box, and the athlete is instructed to hit the ball off of the tee, and the athlete receives 3 attempts. Scoring the distance of the longest hit shall determine the athlete's final score. The distance of a hit is measured from the batting tee to the point where the ball first touches the ground. This is a really, really good thing because it helps them with eye-hand coordination. It helps them get comfortable holding the bat. It helps them understand how to hold the bat and how to swing the bat. It also gives the coaches an opportunity to be able to correct bad habits that they might have with a bat. So I really like this whole idea of doing the individual skills. I think it's going to be a real good addition to a lot of the areas, maybe that don't even play softball, but this would give them an opportunity to offer softball without having to have specifically a whole field or something like that to be able to play on.
All right, so I guess we're about to move to coaches training. Jen, is there any more questions that I missed?
I don't see any more questions as of right now.
Okay, perfect. So we have definitely have a few more minutes. So if there's any other questions that you can think of, please send them in now to Monica so she can answer them. I know there's if you get a chance, please look over the rules. We didn't cover everything, and that was one question that we had with a few of the trainings. There were some things that we did not cover, and that's to the fact that we want to make sure we maintain things that we are doing in Arkansas. So for instance, if you look at the softball rules, you might see T-ball as something that we could have covered or something along those lines, but we just wanted to make sure we covered everything that was happening in Arkansas as far as unified softball competition and individual skills, so, and traditional softball. So that might be why. Question from Mark. Is there any way for me to record these trainings to show to my other coaches? Yes, Mark, we can send you the recording of the training. The only thing is we won't certify a coach if they were not on the training during the time. So let's say if you're at a computer right now with a number of coaches, we'll make sure all of those coaches are certified. But if the training is shown at a later date, then we won't be able to certify those coaches, if that makes sense.
Kayla said, in this session, will we be covering the books and the proper way of filling out those forms during a game?
Let's see. I think we may be able to pull up something for everyone. If Monica, are you okay with that? If we pull up something real fast?
Sure, that's no problem at all.
Okay. All right. So Jen, if you don't mind, could you look up the softball scoring sheet or whatnot, and then if y'all can give me maybe 5 minutes, I will just go over the coach's training and progression plan, and then we'll dive back into the forms itself. All right. All right, I apologize, a little technical difficulties. All right, so just going over the training and progression plan. I know a lot of you on the call have seen it already, but we just want to make sure we repeat it so everyone is on the same page and if there's any questions about it. But the way you can find the training and progression plan, SpecialOlympicsArkansas.org. And again, when I say training and progression plan, this is the things that coaches need to become certified in completely within Special Olympics Arkansas. So SpecialOlympicsArkansas.org, you'll click on Get Involved. First, for any new coaches, in order for your athletes to be registered to compete in Special Olympics Arkansas, you want to click on this Athlete tab. And then right here it says Athlete Participation Packet. And that's a new packet that we have put together, and it's just a one-stop shop for everyone and everything that every form that you'll need for your athlete can be found in this packet. So if we had one athlete, this one packet will be for John, and John will have to have his athlete information form, and that will be the first page. You'll fill it out and check the box, and then you'll go on to the release form. But this is a one-stop shop for everyone. As you can see, the athlete medical form and everything is just right here for you. So a simple click for everyone. All right, so for coaches, just backpedaling, you'll click on Get Involved, and you'll go to the Coaches tab. At the very bottom down here, I know we talked about it on another training, but these are some training workout templates that you can use. This is actually one that Monica uses on a daily basis. As you can see, she'll put her athlete's name. She'll have a warm-up activity that lasts 7 minutes, skill review from the previous training. That's for 10 minutes, and then 20 minutes of a new skill introduction, hydration break, and then a competition practice, and then a cool down and discussion. So just some great tools for everyone in this area. Also, you'll have a few things over here. So a workout video, coach's guidebook that talks about nutrition, hydration, a lot of stuff for coaches. Concussion card. So if you've taken your concussion certification, this is just a reminder card that you can keep if you have a binder or something, or your coach's paperwork, just in case if you come across a event where a concussion may have happened. That'll help you tremendously. So just some things right here for coaches towards the bottom. Also on this page, just little green spot right here. This is where you'll register for any other trainings that we have. I know we have flag football Thursday, and we have young athletes on Wednesday night. So you'll register for those right here. But what we're looking for, coach training and progression plan. So you'll click here. All right. And before I go on, at the very bottom, these are all the elective courses that you can find for any coach that's becoming recertified in a course, in a sport. Instead of going through that this training or in-person training again, you'll just be able to take one of these elective courses to become recertified, and I'll explain everything. But right here, it says download this entire checklist for yourself. And this is what every coach should have. We have it now set where there are 4 levels. You'll be a certified coach, a bronze level coach, a silver level coach, and a gold level coach. With each level, starting with bronze, you will receive a lanyard of that color. I know there's a number of coaches that have sent in their paperwork already that's at the bronze level, and there are lanyards that will be coming your way in the next week or so. But for new coaches, let's say if this is your first time becoming certified in a sport, you'll use this form, name, area, sport, which is softball, your email address, you'll check a new coach, then you'll complete protective behaviors, one of these concussion courses, which is NFHS or CDC, and general orientation if you have not completed the general orientation yet. You'll attach those documents that come afterwards, and then you'll finish the Class A volunteer form, which is a background check. You'll attach that, and then you'll be certified in a minimum of one sport, which is an in-person training or online, and that's what you guys are taking in today. So you'll check that, and you'll also receive a certification that you can attach in the next day or so. For new coaches, you'll skip this one because, of course, you won't maintain it if you're just getting it. But then for those who are coaching unified sports, which everyone on this call should complete, but you'll just take the Coaching Unified Sports course. So once you complete that, you'll send this paperwork in with all the forms, and you'll be certified as a coach in softball. If you are becoming recertified in, let's say, softball, this is your recertification, you'll do pretty much everything above except for general orientation, of course. That's a one-time deal. You'll do your Class A background check, and then you'll come right here to maintain your sports certification by taking approved continuing education courses. And those were the courses that I just showed you on this first page right here towards the bottom. So you'll complete one of those courses. If you would like to, instead of completing a course, attend an in-person training, you can do that once those are back on. But we thought this will be a lot easier for coaches instead of going to those in-person trainings and instead of learning pretty much the same thing that you would over and over. So that's when online certifications come in handy. So once you complete everything you need, just check the box and make sure those forms are completed and send them in. Bronze level, I won't get into everything, but there are requirements for each level. Of course, you can't begin a level without completing the previous level, so keep that in mind. And also at the bronze level, you must have coached that sport for a minimum of 1 year. So if this is your first year coaching softball, this is your first training, you won't be able to make the bronze level until June 16th, 2021. So just keep that in mind as well. Also, another thing that sticks out for each level, starting with silver and gold, the silver level is required for coaches who are attending USA National Games. Gold is required for coaches attending World Games. And just because a coach reaches those levels does not guarantee that they will attend one of those games. Those are just the requirements based off of Special Olympics North America's requirements. So I won't take too long. I think I'm gonna go back and see. Jen, do we have any questions that I may have missed?
Yes. So Leslie asked, can a nurse practitioner complete the health forms, or is it only an MD? Yes, nurse practitioners can fill out the forms. Kayla said, is it 1 year after the certification? What if you've been coaching for years, but just now getting certified in a specific sport?
Well, yeah, for that one, I think you're going as far asking about the bronze and silver level. Yes, since it's officially your first time being certified in that sport, we'll have to count it as you're going into your first year for consistent purposes.
That looks to be all the questions. And I have the other stuff ready. You ready?
Yep.
All right. So first is the roster here.
Okay.
And Monica, you want to go over that?
Sure. Just be sure and put your players' numbers here, what their name is here, what position they're playing, again, going back to the F1, F2, different things like that. And then if you're going to have a substitute for that particular player, you need to be sure and put their number and their name in the substitute area. And bear in mind, when you have a substitute in that area, that person's going in the field in that position. So if Jennifer and I were on the same team and we were both going to be pitchers, Jennifer's name would be in the players area and my name could be in the substitute area. And then that way the scorekeeper is going to know, okay, this person's going to go in for this person, and they're not going to have to wonder, well, why is number 6 pitching now instead of number 12 that was pitching in the first place? So be sure and do that. It makes it a lot easier on the scorekeeper.
Okay, can y'all see that? Okay, now can you?
Yes, yes, we can see it now.
All right. Monica, you want to go over that too?
Sure. This is actually what the scorebook's going to look like. And as you can tell, we've just got mock players up here. We put their number in, put the player in, and then their position. This is what the scorekeeper will have up there. And if you want to go in in depth of how to do all the scoring and everything else, if you'll go to Academy or a sporting goods store that you use in your area and purchase a softball scorebook, it has every single item that you will need to be able to be a softball scorekeeper. There's a whole lot of nuances about it and how you mark the book and different things like that. Probably we don't have time to go over that, just like we didn't have time to go over all of the different rules and everything that there are to softball. So, you guys will need to jump into those rules, but kind of on the scorebook, it's kind of the same thing as well.
I will say that I had to keep the scorebook for my son's baseball one time and I'd never done it. And you're right. It was like cut and paste. Like it was told me step by step exactly what to do. And I knew nothing when I had done it the first time.
Definitely. And keep in mind that overall, most of them will look exactly like this, but there might be a few changes to them. But for the most part, these are exactly what they look like. And another thing, the only thing that I can think of as far as the sheets is sometimes that will ask for a coach to put maybe a P next to a partner's name or something along those lines. But I think Monica hit on everything else for sure. Do we have any more questions? And if we don't, I guess we'll finish up a little early. But Monica, thank you so much for your expertise and taking the time out to lead the coaches training for softball. Again, if you have any questions for Monica, I know she would love for you to reach out to her. And also reach out to Jennifer or myself if you have any questions at all. And again, as far as competitions and everything go, we will keep you all posted here in the next month or so on what the next step will be as far as competitions in the state will go. So if there are no more questions.
Thanks, Monica.
Yes.
And I love seeing everybody's name on here. I know y'all can't, I don't see your faces, but I do love seeing everybody's names. And hey.
Thanks, guys. Hey, and just one other thing I'd like to add. YouTube has tons and tons of videos, not specifically Special Olympics videos, but about different areas of softball that a lot of the coaches can learn a lot of stuff about. So if you really want to dive into that part of it, please do, because there are some great resources out there. And like Irvin said, reach out to me, reach out to some of these other people that have been coaching and umpiring and doing different things for a long time. Because there's a wealth of knowledge in the state of Arkansas specifically to softball, and be sure and reach out to those people and let them help you out.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Monica. And again, everyone, please don't forget tomorrow at 5 p.m. We'll have the Coaching Young Athletes training, which will be led by Jen. And then on Thursday at 10 a.m. on the 18th, we will have Coaching Flag Football. So please make sure you sign up for those trainings, and we would love to see you all on those as well. So there are no more questions. Thank you all for joining, and have a great day.
Bye, guys.